Good evening or good morning or whatever it is in your part of the world, and welcome to Moxie's channel of English language number 19, video number 19, and it's good to have you here. Now I know that you always need to hear this, but if you want to contribute to this channel, please feel free. You can through my PayPal account at moxycell@gmail.com. Moxycell. Moxycel. Yes, and you can also find that in the text section of the YouTube channel. Okay, what do we have here? We have an ATM, an automatic teller machine. This dispenses local currency, and many of them also take in local currency, but we will be just concentrating on the dispensing of the local currency. In Australia, it is the Australian dollar. Okay, and here are some Australian dollars. A bit rough. I drew that myself, you know. I don't want any artists basing their style on my style because it's very good. And the ATM machine, of course. So sometimes I don't have to tell you about ATM, but just I want you to become familiar with how we pronounce the words and the sentences we would use. I am using the ATM. I am not using the ATM. Pretty basic, but you need to know it, like I will be using and things like that. So let us begin. Past tense. There you go, there's a map. I have used the ATM. I have not used the ATM. I've used the ATM. I haven't used the ATM. Oh, I've used the ATM. I haven't used the ATM. Present tense. I am using the ATM. I am not using the ATM. I'm using the ATM. I'm not using the ATM. Oh, I'm using the ATM. Using the ATM. I'm not using the ATM. The ATM? I'm not using the ATM. Oh, that's very rough, but the ATM, yeah. The more you train with me, the more you will hear that, because you will be brainwashed like a robot, not guaranteed for everyone. Future. I am going to be using the ATM. I am not going to be using the ATM. I'm going to be using the ATM. I'm not going to be using the ATM. Oh, I'm going to be using the ATM. I'm not going to be using the ATM. The ATM? You will hear that after a period of time. You. You have used the ATM. You have not used the ATM. You've used the ATM. You haven't used the ATM. You've used the ATM. You haven't used the ATM. You are using the ATM. You are not using the ATM. You're using the ATM. You're not, sorry, too soon. You're not using the ATM. You're not using the ATM. You're using the ATM. You're not using the ATM. Using the ATM. I'm liking it a bit too much. You are going to be using the ATM. You are not going to be using the ATM. You're going to be using the ATM. You're not going to be using the ATM. And you're going to be using the ATM. You're not going to be using the ATM. One word. You're not going to be using the ATM. Very, very casual. Kick your shoes off. Capital C, casual. Alright? Alright. he or she? He has used the ATM. She has not used the ATM. She's used the ATM. He has not used the ATM. Oh, she's used the ATM. Oh, he hasn't used the ATM. Oh, hang on. She hasn't. Sorry. She hasn't used the ATM. I think I repeated the other one before. Present tense. He is using the ATM. She is not using the ATM. She's using the ATM. He isn't. Sorry, no, it's not it. He's not using the ATM. Or isn't, but I don't want to go into isn't yet. Okay. You could say that, but I don't. That's what I would probably say. He's not used. I would say he isn't, but that's okay. Just say he's not using the ATM for now. Okay? Or this list would become that big. It's too much for you. You learn that, no problem. Okay? Everyone will understand you. No problem. Later on, we'll do is, isn't, all these other ones, all these other tenses and all this. But not now. Now, you crawl before you walk. Okay? Yeah. Good. So, I think we're still here, aren't we? Oh, he's using the ATM. Oh, she's not using the ATM. Right. Future. He is going to be using the ATM. She is not going to be using the ATM. She's going to be using the ATM. He's not going to be using the ATM. Oh, she's going to be using the ATM. Oh, he's not going to be using the ATM. He will use the ATM. She will not use the ATM. The ATM. I'm beginning to sound like that now. He'll use the ATM. She won't use the ATM. Oh, getting there. We have used the ATM. We have not used the ATM. We've used the ATM. We haven't used the ATM. Oh, we've used the ATM. We haven't used the ATM. We haven't. We've used the ATM. And we haven't used the ATM. Good. You're learning more. That is very slurred and that is very casual. So the more you hear, the better you get. Not guaranteed for everyone. Present tense. We are using the ATM. We are not using the ATM. We're using the ATM. We're not using the ATM. And we're using the ATM. And we're not using the ATM. It's because there are a lot of vowels in there, and we're not using the ATM. And they kind of slur into one big word. Yeah. Future. We are going to be using the ATM. We are not going to be using the ATM. We're going to be using the ATM. We're not going to be using the ATM. And we're going to be using the ATM. And we're not using the ATM. We will use the ATM. We will not use the ATM. We'll use the ATM. We won't use the ATM. The ATM. It's very easy to go the ATM. Very easy. Okay. They, past tense. They have used the ATM. They have not used the ATM. They've used the ATM. They haven't used the ATM. They've used the ATM. Oh, they've used the ATM. They haven't used the ATM. They are using the ATM. They are not using the ATM. They're using the ATM. They're not using the ATM. Oh, they're using the ATM. they're not using the ATM. They are going to be using the ATM. They are not going to be using the ATM. They're going to be using the ATM. They're not going to be using the ATM. They're gonna be using the ATM. They're not gonna be using the ATM. Yeah, they're not gonna be. It's a gonna. I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do that. Gonna. They will use the ATM. They will not use the ATM. They'll use the ATM. They won't use the ATM. ATM. Okay, excellent guys. That's really, really good. So, I will see you in number 20. Good. Oh, remember, 5 times. Do not practice until you get it right. Train until you never get it wrong. Not guaranteed for everyone. And proficiency follows solid planned training. Not guaranteed for everyone. Like the cart follows a horse that drags it. Do not expect instant results. Does the golf pro that trains his student expect instant results? No, that's what the amateur wants. The professional looks long term, right? So just keep on training. You have many to train with. See you in number 20, which is my last one for this day.